My name is Vanessa. I used to believe in fairy tales before I found out my husband was writing his own behind my back. I was 33, 7 months pregnant, and happier than I'd ever been. Or at least I thought I was. My husband, Daniel, and I had been married for 3 years. We met at a marketing conference in Chicago. He was charming, successful, and every bit the picture of stability I thought I needed after a decade of dating disasters. He made me feel safe, seen. He cooked. He remembered my coffee order. He kissed me goodnight even when we argued. So when he knelt down on one knee in the middle of Times Square with a vintage ring that had belonged to his grandmother, I said yes without hesitation. 3 years later, we were finally having a baby. We had struggled with fertility treatments for nearly a year. 2 miscarriages, countless tears, hormone shots that made me feel like I was going insane. But then it happened, 2 pink lines. He cried when I told him. We both did. For the first time in a long time, life felt soft again. The baby shower was my sister's idea. She insisted on going big. Pastel balloons, custom cookies with the baby's name on them, and a backyard brunch that looked like it was pulled straight from a Pinterest board. I told her I didn't need all of it, that I would have been fine with just family and a few friends. But she said, you only get your first baby once. Let's make it count. Looking back, I'm glad she pushed. Because that day, the day I thought would be filled with laughter and love, became the day I lost everything. The morning of the shower, I was glowing, not just because of the pregnancy, but because Daniel had been perfect lately. Sweet texts, foot rubs, even a surprise spa day a week earlier so I could relax before the big day. I remember thinking, how did I get so lucky? I slipped on the soft lavender dress I'd bought months ago, the one with the stretchy waist and the little embroidered flowers. My belly was round and beautiful. I cradled it in the mirror and whispered, we're almost there, little one. Daniel kissed my cheek before we left. You look gorgeous, babe. He didn't hold my hand on the way to my sister's house. I thought nothing of it. The party was beautiful. People hugged me, gave gifts wrapped in pink and silver, laughed over baby name predictions and advice. My sister cried during her toast. I did too. And then, just as I was opening the last gift, Daniel tapped me on the shoulder. I need to talk to you. Privately. His face was pale, hands shaking. I thought something had happened, maybe a work emergency. Or worse, something with the baby. We stepped into the hallway. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and handed it to me. What is this? He didn't answer. I opened it. I don't even know how my hands worked. I was already sweating from the July heat and the hormones. But the second I saw the first words, petition for dissolution of marriage, I swear my heart stopped. I looked up. This is a joke, right? Daniel didn't blink. I'm sorry, Vanessa. I can't do this anymore. I haven't been happy for a long time. The air drained out of the room. I stared at him, waiting for some kind of explanation, some shred of decency. But he just looked at me, empty, cold, distant. You're giving me divorce papers at my baby shower? I whispered. I thought it'd be better to do it now, before the baby comes. Before the baby comes. Before I become harder to leave. Before it gets complicated. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just handed him the envelope back and said very clearly, you'll regret this. Because in that moment, standing there, humiliated, discarded, and deeply pregnant, I felt something inside me shift. The woman he thought he could walk away from, she didn't exist anymore. I didn't go back to the baby shower. I stood in the hallway for a long time, watching Daniel walk out the front door like he hadn't just dropped a bomb on my life, like he hadn't just turned our future into a pile of smoldering ash. And the worst part? Nobody noticed. I waited until I heard his car drive away before I slipped into the guest bathroom, locked the door, and stared at my reflection. I looked exactly the same, but I wasn't. I was now a woman with a baby on the way and a husband who had already moved on. My sister knocked gently on the door. "Vanessa? Everything okay?" I opened it and forced a smile. "Yeah, just pregnancy stuff. I think I need to lie down." She didn't press. She helped me up to the spare bedroom and closed the door behind her. I sat on the bed, clutched my stomach, and let the tears fall. Quiet, controlled, angry tears. Then I picked up my phone and started digging. Daniel had never been great at passwords. He reused the same ones. He left tabs open on his laptop like digital breadcrumbs. So when I opened my iPad, synced to his Apple account, I knew I'd find something. And I did. An Uber receipt from 3 nights ago to a hotel downtown. A Venmo payment labeled for the room. An email confirmation for a flower delivery sent to someone named Lena. I clicked on her Instagram. She was exactly what I expected. Blonde, younger, overly curated selfies. And, oh, the cherry on top, a caption from last week. When you know, you just know. That's when it hit me. She thought she was the fiancé. My husband hadn't just left me. He had replaced me. While I was planning a nursery, he was planning his next engagement. While I was thinking of baby names, he was making dinner reservations for 2. I didn't sleep that night. I started collecting, screenshotting, organizing, documenting everything I could find. And the more I found, the more I realized this wasn't spontaneous. This had been planned. Daniel had been slowly shifting funds out of our joint account. He had rerouted mail to a P.O. box I never knew existed. He'd even created a shell LLC, probably to protect assets I didn't know he was hiding. It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. And if he wanted a war, he had picked the wrong woman to cross. By sunrise, I had a full folder titled Operation Divorce Revenge. Inside were copies of receipts, screenshots of DMs, emails, account transfers, and even a few embarrassing selfies of him in a silk robe, taken in the mirror of that hotel room with Lena. I smiled at the screen. He had no idea what was coming. The next few days were surreal. Daniel stayed gone. He didn't check in, didn't call to ask how I was doing, didn't even ask about the baby. And in the absence of his presence, I built my own fortress. I didn't tell anyone at first, not even my sister. I didn't want pity. I didn't want rage on my behalf. I wanted leverage. I wanted Daniel to believe I was broken and blindsided, not quietly planning the most methodical revenge of his life. While the world thought I was mourning the end of my marriage, I was actually collecting ammunition. I started with finances. I went through every bank statement from the last 2 years. I flagged questionable charges, duplicate withdrawals, and payments to services I'd never heard of. He'd been paying for a second storage unit under a fake name. He'd been wiring money to a consulting firm that didn't even have a website. But I did find a phone number. And when I called, the voicemail said, "This is David. Leave a message." Daniel's middle name is David. Of course. Next, the prenup. He had insisted on one. Said it was just a formality, that he had student loans and wanted to protect me from his past. But when I dug into the copy, I realized he'd inserted clauses I'd never seen during signing. Turns out, Daniel had finessed the final draft, burying legal jargon that waived any claim I had to his investment firm if the marriage ended due to irreconcilable differences. Sneaky. Very sneaky. Unfortunately for him, my cousin Claire is a corporate attorney, and she owed me a favor. Claire came over that Friday night. I told her everything. By the end of our conversation, she looked at me like I was on fire. You realize what he's doing, right? She said. He's trying to isolate you legally before the baby is born. He wants to protect assets and cut you off before child support kicks in. I nodded. Exactly. She paused. Do you want to destroy him? I said nothing. She grinned. Good, because I love that answer. We started drafting what she called a preemptive rebuttal. It wasn't a formal countersuit yet. It was more like a blueprint for war. When we'd activate the second, Daniel made the next move. Meanwhile, I played the role of the broken wife. I posted soft photos on Instagram. A picture of my hands resting on my belly. A caption that read, "Trying to stay strong for my little girl. Broken heart one day at a time." The likes and messages rolled in. Even Daniel liked it. Of course he did. He thought I was crushed, that his plan was working. But I wasn't crushed. I was constructing his ruin, brick by brick. The first time I saw Daniel after the baby shower was exactly 11 days later. He showed up unannounced. I heard the knock while I was folding tiny onesies in the nursery. Things I'd picked out when we still felt like a family. I opened the door and there he was, smiling, like this was normal. I figured we should talk, he said casually, like he hadn't handed me divorce papers between cupcakes and baby gifts. I stepped aside and let him in. He walked around the living room like he still lived there. Just came to grab a few things, he said, eyeing the cabinet. And I thought we could go over next steps. Mediation. Custody. You know. I nodded slowly, my arms folded. Calm. Cold. Controlled. He started pulling papers from his bag. I had my lawyer draw up a revised agreement. You'll get a fair amount. We just want to speed things up before the baby comes. No drama, right? I looked down at the papers. The numbers were laughable. The custody terms even worse. You want full custody? I asked, blinking. Technically joint, but primary residence with me, he said. It's better for the baby. I'll have more time. I stared at him. You cheated, lied, tried to disappear, and now you think you deserve to raise the child you tried to walk away from? Daniel gave me that condescending half smile I used to mistake for charm. I know this is emotional for you, but Lena and I can provide a stable home. There it was. Lena. No more pretending. I set the folder down. I won't sign this, I said. I figured you'd say that, he said, unfazed. But listen, Vanessa, you don't want to drag this out. Courts don't like messy divorces, especially when a kid's involved. That's when I walked to the side table, pulled open the drawer, and slid a thick envelope across the table. What's this? He asked. Insurance. He opened it. Inside were screenshots, statements, a photo of him and Lena, wrapped in each other's arms, taken at the hotel by a friend of mine who worked security. His eyes widened. You've been stalking me? I smiled. I've been documenting you. He flipped to the next page, an email chain where he discussed moving investments before the divorce. Then another, a transcript of a voicemail Lena left him about getting rid of the old life so we can start fresh. Still want to talk about custody? I asked sweetly. Daniel didn't say a word. That night, I got an email from his lawyer. Daniel is willing to renegotiate. I forwarded it to Claire with the subject line, checkmate. But I wasn't done. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about every woman who's ever been blindsided by the man she trusted most. I wasn't going to settle for a renegotiation. I wanted to rewrite the ending. After that showdown, Daniel went quiet. No more unannounced visits. No more smug emails. His lawyer reached out once to explore an amicable resolution, but the tone had shifted. He knew I had him. What he didn't know was I was just getting started. I filed for divorce the next morning. My terms: full custody, majority of assets, zero tolerance for manipulation. I included every bit of evidence, dozens of pages. It wasn't petty. It was precise. Claire made sure of that. Daniel responded a week later through his lawyer. He folded on everything. Custody? Mine. Assets? A clean split. Alimony? 6 years. But it still wasn't enough. Because Daniel had tried to erase me. And I wanted the world to know exactly who he was. With Claire's help, I filed a formal complaint with the State Bar Association. Daniel had been offering freelance financial consultations without the proper licensing. We submitted records, statements, and one audio clip of him giving advice to a client while pretending to be a CPA. 2 weeks later, he got a cease and desist order. Then came the IRS audit. Not from me, but from a well-placed tip about his shady LLC shell. I watched from a distance as the empire he tried to protect crumbled one secret at a time. And through it all, I bloomed. I launched a small business from home, maternity planning services for first-time mothers, because I knew exactly what they needed. Word spread fast. I went viral after a TikTok about toxic partners blew up. 1 million views in 24 hours. Suddenly, I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. The baby came on a rainy Monday morning. A little girl, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. The moment I held her, I felt like the universe was hugging me back, like it had seen the storm I walked through, and decided I deserved some peace. Daniel sent a gift basket to the hospital. I sent it back. He visited once, held her for exactly 11 minutes, told me she looked like me. She does, and I'll raise her to be brave, to never settle, to see red flags from a mile away, and walk away with her head high. 3 months later, I stood on the stage at a local women's conference. I shared my story not as a victim, but as a warrior. The crowd gave me a standing ovation, and for the first time I believed it. Not just that I had survived, but that I had won. 1 year later, my life looked nothing like the one Daniel tried to erase me from. I lived in a new apartment with sunlight streaming in through big windows. My daughter's laugh echoed through the halls. I had real friends, real clients, and real peace. I wasn't just a woman who'd been hurt. I was a woman who had built something beautiful out of wreckage. One afternoon, I received an anonymous package. Inside was a thin silver bracelet. No note, no return address, just a tag that read, "For everything you survived." I don't know who sent it. Maybe a follower. Maybe someone who heard me speak. Maybe even Lena, filled with guilt after all the fallout. But it didn't matter, because I wore that bracelet every day as a reminder, not of the pain, but of the fact that I walked through it, and I never stopped walking. Daniel? He lost everything. His job, his consulting hustle, his reputation. Turns out, investors don't like being lied to. He moved back in with his parents. Last I heard, Lena left him when his bank account froze and her name started showing up in legal documents. Karma didn't just knock on his door. It moved in. But here's the thing. I didn't need to destroy him. He did that all on his own. I just refused to go down quietly. Now, I help other women tell their stories. I teach workshops on financial independence, red flag awareness, and boundary setting. I share every scar, because in those scars is power. I don't hide what happened to me. I lead with it. Because someone out there is still being handed metaphorical divorce papers at their own baby shower. And they need to know. It's not the end. It's the beginning. They thought I'd crumble, but I built an empire instead. If you're listening to this, remember, your story isn't over. It's just the part where the heroine finally wakes up. And when she does, she sets the whole script on fire.